Actually, a question or kind of concern about that jigsaw method, because what if, you have one of the students either didn't do the work or else misunderstood what they were supposed to be reading, so then they're coming to the chat providing
faulty information, right?
About what they read. And
sure.
In a real class, the instructor can be there and say, oh, well, I think maybe you misunderstood that and come in and correct before everybody kind of
so it's it's a good question. Let me tell you, in the literally 15 years that I've been doing weekly small group chats, and I look at the transcripts. I confess I don't read every single one of them, but I do look at a good sample of them. Students do not come to these chats unprepared. And I think the reason is because it's not like a discussion section at Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We've collaborated on when we as a group are going to do it. I should have mentioned that because it's an online course. They have to negotiate. And I think the fact that they've negotiated and said, oh, I have to work at this time, I have to do this, I think it raises the stakes. And the few times that I have seen students say, I didn't have a chance to read the article, the students say, what time should we meet again? It's just compelling to me. I can never imagine that happening in face-to-face. With regard to your second about what if they come with faulty information, I kind of gave you some hard articles, but I really try to make it so, and I do the highlighting, I give them summaries, I really try to make it so that everyone has a really good shot at getting the right information. I can see how people could do it more complex, but I really work super hard at curating the information so that everybody way too hard, I should say, at curating.
So the articles that you gave us with highlighted text, you're saying when you teach with your students, you also highlight various aspects of the text that you think is so important.
Exactly. And another thing, and I also, the little flags that I did on one of the articles, I do that a lot. Like if there's a word that they're not going to know, I flag it out with a little pointer. For the articles that I mentioned that I did last week in my Psychological Effects of the Internet on Texting, I also had them read a popular press account of each of the articles, and I had to work really hard to find one for all of them, but I did. And I only chose articles that there was both the journal article and a popular press, so that, again, back to what you were suggesting, they have a backup. So I really want them to be successful. It's not about coming and being embarrassed about other people. I really want them to be successful at bringing the information to the chat when they do the jigsaw,
So you must, in an online course, you must assign the groups, as you did today.
Thank you so much.
And along those lines, do you have them in groups that stay the same through the
I'm so glad you asked that. This is like I've planted this question because this was something I wanted to mention. This is what I've been doing the thing I'm going to tell you is what I've been doing for years, and I like it, although I'm always open to change. The first half of the semester, and we don't chat the first week, and they're just getting to know one another. We don't even chat until the third week. So the third week is when they start chatting. They're assigned alphabetically. And the sections in my courses are also assigned alphabetically. So I take a 120-person course, and I make it 10 sections of 12. And they feel like they're in a class of 12. And they never see anybody else. It is so insular. And then I assign the groups alphabetically. At mid-semester, and in fact we're going to be doing that in 1 week, they get to reorient. And I tell the people, the person in your existing group whose last name comes last alphabetically, you are the new picker. And you get to pick 2 more people to be in your group. And the criteria are only that you cannot be in a group that you can't pick someone who was in your old group, and you can't pick someone who is also a picker. So it makes it a little complicated, but they have a list of who the pickers are and everything. I don't know if this is good or bad, but I can tell you over 15 years, what happens is we get ability grouping at that point. I mean, I could assign grades on who's partnered with whom at that point. I really could. It's the go-getter, eager beaver, people who do the work well, they find each other super fast. The sluggards, or slackers or whatever, thank you, they don't get together so fast. It's a little freaky because it kind of reminds me of being picked for, kickball when I was in grade school. I'm not a real athletic person, I'm not tall or anything like that. But they're happy. And there's a study I know you have a question. Let me just mention, there's a couple of studies that have investigated group work, and one of the things that they did in one of the studies is they did a survey at the beginning of the semester in their class, and they said, do you like group work, do you not like group work? And that's a simple analysis, and they took everybody who liked group work and put them together, and everybody who didn't like group work and put them together. And a lot of the reasons why the people didn't like group work was just like that pie chart I was talking about, which is, I have to do all the work. If you put all the people together who always feel like, I have to do all the work, then they're happier together. And I think that that's, when they reassemble, it is so driven by, I wouldn't say ability, it's driven by conscientiousness. It is remarkable how driven it is by conscientiousness. But I think they're happier that way. So yeah, I have a little bit of both. Mandatory and then your choice.
I have two questions. One, what do you use for...
I'm sorry?
I just don't think there's any way that it's Bradley Cooper who does all the work.
This is great. This is great. Yeah.
But my questions are, what do you use for the highlighting of the PDF and adding the flags? Mm-hmm. And two, that cool backpack hook that you have there, have you guys all seen that?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, the highlighting is Adobe Acrobat.
Okay.
And the little flags and stuff like that. And I just about every, if there's a complex article, I mean, my current course, Psychological Effects of the Internet, as Vanessa knows, I mean, this is mostly sophomores and juniors. They have had intro psych, they have had research methods, but I'm assigning them primary journal articles, and you know, because you teach that at that level, it's sometimes a tough sledding for them, but I want them to do it. And so I highlight the heck out of a lot of things. Or sometimes I even cut off sections, cut out pages, and say, instead of just saying, don't worry about page number 3 or 4, I just take it out. Or I even take out sentences. You can do anything with Adobe Acrobat. You can, so I do it all through Adobe. And so this guy is from that movie, Guilt Trip with Seth Rogen and Barbara Streisand. Anybody see it? And so remember when they're at Costco and he's trying to pimp his product, but all the guy can pay attention to is the fact that his mother, played by Barbara Streisand, has this really cool purse hook. And he's like, I don't care about this product that's like super green and is, whatever. I just want to know about this purse hook. And after that movie, I was like, I want a purse hook. So that's what, and I got it off of Amazon, to pimp for Amazon. So.
And it travels well.
Yeah, it just pops it right back in my purse.
Yeah.
How long do each of these chats tend to last?
I always say an hour long. And it's interesting, talking again about the time frame. At the beginning of the semester, they think, oh, we're going to have to be here an hour. By the third chat, they're like, oh my goodness, time's almost up. We better wrap up, kind of thing. I think the hour, it feels like it might take a long time, but by the time they really are, if you guys really would have been able to read the articles, no offense, and really try to challenge, well, why did they find this? Why didn't they find this? And what does this mean? And the fact that one person is responsible for then, it's not like it goes away. Oh, we had this gorgeous chat and now it's, there's someone on the line and it's going to be you the next week because they rotate. They have to decide. They have to negotiate. They have to negotiate who does it each time. And so if you're not giving me the stuff that I'm going to need to make the post, and then I'm going to be pretty pissed next time when it's my turn, kind of thing.
We have the room till 10 o'clock, so I don't know if you need to run away right away, but I do want to be honoring our time, and it is 9:30. Please fill out our evaluation so that these can be better and better, and
so I'll share one more anecdote, which is when I first started using this, and it wasn't always the D2L chat, it was something called I've always used whatever UW offers, even though the students are like, well, we could be using Skype, we could be using Google+, whatever. The problem with that is everybody has to have an account. Not everybody wants an account. So when I first started using text chat, literally 15 years ago, the students, I don't know, you probably cut that off on here, but I have this little disclaimer about, they were like, oh my God, this feels like I'm in 3rd grade and I'm using AOL. This is like, but these days, the students are totally happy with it. They don't mind a bit. It's so funny. And I have also, I'm not currently, but in other years I've said, if you don't, do the text chat for a couple weeks. If you don't want to do it, you can use Skype or something like that. You can do video if you want. Students do not want to do video. They absolutely do not want, because most of these people are doing it in their home, in their jammies. They've got their cat in their lap. They are, and I've never, out of nearly 1,000 students, have ever had a group of students say they wanted to do video chat. I find it compelling, but that's true. They just don't. And I mean, I'm kind of that way, these days too, that it's like, oh, I have to comb my hair? Yes.
So do you use D2L chat? Have you experimented with other kind of very trendy, cool platforms that are tempting? But
I know.
It's a good idea.
Well, there's one thing about D2L chat that is both a flaw and it could be a feature. And that is, as you probably noted, there's no chat indicator. So on Facebook chat or on iMessage or, I know when you're typing. And I've done actually a lot of reading about that topic. And it is a real mixed bag, because sometimes, even though it would be nice to know when somebody else is typing, there's also the lack of responsibility. I mean, I say this in front of Vanessa, who knows my husband. My husband is the slowest typist in the world. I mean, painfully slow typist. And we text a lot. And I see that he's starting to text. I just put my phone down. And I mean, I'm sorry. That's all there is to it. And I just wait for it to beep, I mean, like, there's no way I'm going to sit there looking at it, because he's a very, very slow typist and an even slower texter. And the data suggests that that's the case. That, in fact, there's a great article from the guy who invented the chat indicator saying, curse me now, because, a lot of people don't like it because of that very thing. Like, it's just your signal of, don't pay attention, I'm doing something. So D2L, despite it being so archaic, actually, I think it's a good thing that it doesn't have the chat indicator, because people aren't waiting. And I think, the data from the studies that you guys read from the 90s didn't have the chat indicator, because that's just the way chat used to be. And I think that's why a lot of those studies show that there's more discussion going on, because people aren't waiting for the channel to clear. It makes it complex, because you have to scroll back up and look to see what did somebody just say while I was typing. But it keeps you on your toes. You just don't have that dead downtime where you're like I am with my husband. Only when he texts, I promise. Only when he texts.
It's also how conversation works. We interrupt each other, we talk over each other.
Yeah. Well, and the trick also is, you'll learn if you use the D2L chat or any of the chats that don't have indicators, is just go for short segments. And most students figure that out by about the second or third chat. Is, if I'm going to type 3 sentences, the world is gone. They are, they're already, onto something else. I'm going to hold the floor by typing a short sentence that's not quite finished, and come back and type another sentence. And that's how you learn to hold the floor in a text chat.